The top 5 rock bands of the 1970s. Although the 1960s churned out countless classic hits and albums that became landmark records in rock, there's a reason, or several reasons rather, why it was the 1970s which became rock's golden era. Rock branched out into other subgenres, with hard rock being the most prominent. Psychedelic rock began to fade out, but its influences could still be heard in some popular songs. Arena rock, southern rock, country rock, progressive rock, blues rock, and punk rock continued to increase their growing fan base. There are a plethora of events that impacted the 70s, from the counterculture movement in the 60s to the protest against the Vietnam War. More than that, the decade boasted of diversity. There was something for everyone, no matter their preference. As such, while it was clearly an interesting time in rock, it was challenging for emerging artists to stand out and make their own mark. But the following bands were exceptional enough to tower above everyone else. Here are the 5 greatest rock groups of the 1970s. But first, go ahead and subscribe to our channel for more classic rock videos and click that bell icon so you'll get first dibs to all our new rock awesome content. Number 1. Led Zeppelin. They were in a league of their own. They had a stunning debut in 1969, but as they moved from covers to original material, they proved that they were a force of nature with their stellar studio efforts and explosive live performances. And while most will pinpoint the 8-minute epic Stairway to Heaven as their greatest work, Led Zeppelin has several other musical masterpieces in their arsenal. Bassist John Paul Jones said, "The band was never about making the same album twice. It was never, oh, that was successful, let's try and do that again," which was fantastic. And once we made one record, that was it. Okay, let's see what we can do next. Led Zeppelin deserved the hype. They're 4 musicians who displayed their virtuosity with every classic hit they churned out. It's not every day you get to witness such talent in one group. Number 2. Black Sabbath. Aside from living a life of excess during their glory days, Black Sabbath left an indelible mark in rock as the godfathers of heavy metal. They pushed the envelope when it came to their dark, menacing, and heavy-hitting music. Their first 3 albums, their eponymous debut album, Paranoid, and Master of Reality, showcased their raw and unrestrained aggression. If they released only those 3 records and nothing else, they still would have secured themselves a spot in the rock and roll pantheon. Selling over 70 million records worldwide, their influence on hard rock and heavy metal cannot be stated enough. From Iron Maiden to Slipknot, Metallica to Anthrax, and Alice in Chains to Van Halen, it's not just heavy metal too. Black Sabbath helped lay down the foundation for subgenres like stoner rock, thrash metal, doom metal, sludge metal, and even grunge. Even Slash said this about Paranoid. "There's just something about that whole record that, when you're a kid and you're turned onto it, it's like a whole different world. It just opens up your mind to another dimension." Paranoid is the whole Sabbath experience, very indicative of what Sabbath meant at the time. At number 3, Deep Purple. Another pioneer of heavy metal and hard rock, Deep Purple didn't find their sound and style from the get-go. In fact, it took them a while before they finally found what truly worked for them. They initially started out doing psychedelic rock and progressive rock, but after a few albums, they eventually favored a heavier sound, and this is what served as their breakthrough record, their 4th studio effort, Deep Purple in Rock, which featured the iconic Mark II lineup of Ian Gillan, Ritchie Blackmore, Roger Glover, John Lord, and Ian Pace. They may have over a dozen albums, but their best musical works were released in the 70s while they were at the height of their creative powers. Number 4. Pink Floyd. They formed in 1965 under Syd Barrett's leadership and was known for being a psychedelic rock band, but in the 1970s, they explored other rock territories and were at the forefront of the prog rock movement. Albums like The Dark Side of the Moon, Wish You Were Here, Animals, and The Wall solidified their rock god status. With the brilliant and creative minds of Roger Waters and David Gilmour, their music proved that they were ahead of their time, and it wasn't easy for other bands to keep up with them. Still, what took them to the top was what also broke them up. Waters and Gilmour soon realized they were being held back by each other, and the only way they could be free from the artistic constraints would be to pursue different directions, musically. Over the years, there have been conflicts and legal battles, and while we may never see Pink Floyd reunite again, their music remains relevant today. And at number 5, the Allman Brothers Band. They had already churned out 2 studio albums before they finally had their breakthrough with the live release at Fillmore East. Dwayne Allman said in 1970, "We get kind of frustrated doing the studio records." Known for their excellent and magical concerts, the Allman Brothers band showcased their top-notch musicianship and virtuosity with their classic hits. And it's not just their records that became legendary, it's their resiliency as a group too, especially when they pushed on after the death of 2 important members, leader Dwayne Allman and bassist Barry Oakley, who died within a year of each other and from eerily similar accidents. Even in the 80s, they still toured heavily and also had a string of new albums. The 1970s had no shortage of talents and instant classics. And the aforementioned rock acts knew that to stand out, they had to blaze their own trail, and that's exactly what they did. Like this video? Please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe and click that bell icon to get more classic rock.